Is it just me, or has GameStop really gone downhill over the past decade? Unless he got into the meme stock craze, like my old roommate did, lucky guy. It feels like you never get your value for trade-ins. Their stores are filled with plushies and Funko Pops instead of actual video games, and they'll even follow you to your car to try to sell you that pro membership.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
The vast majority of people who have a bad time at GameStop just move on after or shop somewhere else. Other people, well, they leave 1-star reviews on the internet. And in this video, let me, Jeff, read you some of those hilarious and sometimes bizarre 1-star reviews. I also love taking viewer requests, so comment any suggestions you have, sub so you don't miss it, and leave a like for the algorithm. Now, let's go to the first GameStop. Our first GameStop is in the state of Idaho, in Boise, Idaho. It's a very small GameStop right next to a cash store and a cell phone repair shop. Sounds like the recipe for a wild night.
Let's party.
So let's go read some reviews. Our first review comes from Kay. Wow. One person working here, it's busy and he's totally unprofessional. We were trading some games, he gets the hiccups and does it wrong, then has to totally restart everything, and now I'm typing this as he's in the middle of checking us out and decided to chat on the phone and give some kind of technical help to someone that isn't even correct. I'm taking a guess it was the mental hiccups and not the physical hiccups. I really hope it wasn't physical hiccups. And not only did he make a mistake while trading in the games, he potentially is bricking someone else's console too. I wish we knew what the advice was he was giving over the phone. Was it something like this?
Just jam a fork into the disc tray and it should pop out.
I think you could do that to the Xbox 360 back in the day. Anyways, let's go read Tofu's review. I pre-ordered a Switch 2 months ago, and went to the release tonight only to be told I had to go wait in a whole other line to get my Switch, and Chris kept talking to me like it was my fault I didn't know, and that they called everyone. Well, I searched my phone log and there were unsurprisingly no call. When I told Chris that there was no call, he very aggressively told me that someone called and to just get in line and wait. So I had to wait in a line on a night that was supposed to be honestly a good time, but ended up with me listening to everyone be upset at the same thing I was pissed about. At least I wasn't the only one, I guess. Also, unrelated, but I'm genuinely repulsed by Chris's BO. It was as horrible as his attitude. I can say that I went to a few midnight releases at GameStop back in the day, and there really was no confusion. Usually just a bunch of dudes pumped up to play the next Call of Duty game. I think the last one I went to was for Black Ops 2, and that was like 12 years ago? Oh no. I also like how Tofu had to slip in that little zinger at the end about Chris's BO. The real question is Chris the person that Kay ran into? And does Chris come back up in these next reviews? Let's find out and read Josh's review. The guy behind the counter with long hair was rude. It made me feel like I was bothering him by wanting to sell my son's Xbox. He said he couldn't take it because the controllers didn't have batteries in them. Why would someone put batteries in something they're trading in? Ultimately, ended up being turned away because the controller didn't have the rubber on the joysticks, which I guess I understand, but I have purchased controllers without the rubber on joysticks before from GameStop, so I didn't think it was a huge deal. Just frustrated at what sounds like inconsistencies store to store. With the description that Josh gave us, do you think this is Chris? Let me know. And also, it's a bit weird they wouldn't accept the controllers without batteries unless like the battery compartment was like completely destroyed. But it's totally acceptable to me to refuse the controllers without the rubber on them. How does that happen? Unless you have a dog or something, I've never worn the rubber out on a controller. Maybe PlayStation's just better. Now, let's not start a console war like it's 2008. Instead, let's go see if Rio ran into Chris. Christopher is extremely rude and has a slight judgy attitude since I walked in. He saw I rode my bike, not because I am homeless, but just because I chose to. And when I asked him why is the game open but still considered new, he just said,
You know you don't have to get it if you don't want it.
when I was honestly just confused because of the return policy. Knowing full well I rode my bike there just for the game since I called in before. I still don't understand why some games are open and new while other games are not, but I just got the game and left. The attitude from the start and is ready for confrontation is something I didn't appreciate. Not only did Chris strike again, but he got full named in Christopher. If you guys ever call me Jeffrey, I know I'm in trouble. Do you think Chris was being judgmental since Rio rode their bike there? Or do you think it was all in Rio's head? So based on these reviews, would you want to go to this GameStop? If I did, I would leave if I saw anybody named Chris. Alright, let's go to the next one. I've heard the legend of Florida Man, but is there a legend of Florida GameStop? Let's go find out in Bradenton, Florida, at this GameStop that has a 3.8 rating on 596 reviews. It's part of a strip mall, and when I move the street view, we get teleported back to 2015. Fun fact, in 2015, the game of the year was The Witcher 3, and I still haven't beat it yet. So with that in mind, let's get into those Florida GameStop reviews. Our first review for Florida comes from somebody that sounds like they're using their professional wrestling nickname, and that's The Truth. Brian is the worst. Tried to take advantage of me, and he showed zero empathy when it was pointed out. Makes me understand why people hate a generation. Very unprofessional and sneaky. Never answers the phone. Honestly, an embarrassment to the company as a whole. I hope you find this message and remove the issue. Using the phrase, remove the issue, sounds like the way Darth Vader would fire an insubordinate, doesn't it? Remove the issue.
Oh, please, Dorothy, please, one more chance. I promise I'll be on time. Please, Dorothy.
Or something like that. I'm guessing that The Truth is like a Gen X or maybe an older millennial, and maybe Brian is Gen Z? Or maybe it's the opposite. I have no idea. Who doesn't love speculating? Let's move on and see what went so bad for John he left a 1-star review. They can't answer their phones because there's only one person ever on staff, and they get too flustered and can't handle attending the store and being on the phone at once. They take the phone off the hook. This location also reeks of mold. It's reviews like this that make me question how long was John in this GameStop. He had to be there a pretty long time observing this worker. Also, in my limited amount of time in Florida, everything kind of smelled moldy. Sorry, Florida people. Before I offend anybody else, let's move on and read Eric's review. The employees are so catatonic and completely vacant and devoid of anything that resembles warmth or want to be there. Miserable individuals working here. This is why GameStop is dying. Oh yes, totally. It's the catatonic employees that are tanking GameStop. And not the fact that I can order almost any game, have it show up to my door within like 72 hours at most. You can even have new games delivered to your house on day of release. I did it in 2010 for Black Ops 1, so I know. Oh, just Jeff sneaking in real quick to give a shout out to the Super JeffFreak channel members. Darth Jen, Jawara Hall, Steven, Jake, and Aurora's Aura. Thank you so much for that extra support, it means a ton. Alright, back to the video. The next review for this GameStop comes from Christina. My man asked for help. They just stared at him and looked back at each other and talked and looked back a couple of times, so my man and I just left and didn't do service with them. Very unprofessional. Seems like more of a clique selling games than actual workers, if you ask me. Well, at least Christina had more than one employee working. The downfall, they were the catatonic employees again. I also don't know if I ever trust anybody who refers to their partner just as my man or like my wife, my husband without giving a name. It just feels kind of strange. I don't know. Anyways, what you guys think about this Florida GameStop? You guys gonna take a vacation there? Let me know and let's go to the next one. The next GameStop is one that I've actually been to and bought something at, and that's the GameStop in the Fox River Mall in Appleton, Wisconsin. So I think I went to this GameStop in like 2018 or 2019 and it was a totally normal GameStop, so that's all I have to say about it. And is it just me, or do malls and GameStop seem to go hand in hand nowadays? Even if the mall has like 5 or 6 stores, one always feels like it's a GameStop. Anyways, let's get to those reviews. Our first review is his only review, and that comes from Ivan. The one time I pre-orders anything from GameStop, I go on day of the product release. They tell me they don't have it, telling me they will call me on the weekend for it. It's been almost a month and never got a call. Waste of $5 setting any pre-order aside. And the worker tried to sell me on a pro GameStop account. I'm just confused to how this did not get resolved. I've been paid $5 to reserve the game wasn't reserved, and they didn't have any copies, and on top of that, they tried to sell them a pro account? Oof, this place stinks. It's actually pretty hard for this place to stink, since it's located in the food court. Alright, enough bad jokes for a few seconds. Let's go read Nathan's review. Rude employees. In the middle of a conversation, she just walked off to talk to someone else like my questions didn't matter. Will not be returning. Plenty of other places to go for games. I wonder what sort of questions Nathan was asking. Was it something like this?
So if you can make any Pokemon into like a real life friend, who would it be?
If that was the question, I can understand them walking away. Our next review for this Wisconsin GameStop comes from Jerry. Return policy is a joke. My son bought a controller and returned it about an hour later when he realized his other controller was not broken, just dead. He opened the box, never even connected it, and was unable to return it. Buy elsewhere with better customer service. That return policy is a bit unforgiving, especially if the controller doesn't work, but if I was Jerry, I'd be a little bit more worried about my son than about the return policy at GameStop. The controller was just dead. Isn't that the first thing you do is plug it in? Plug it in, plug it in. Oh great, now that's gonna be stuck in my head. Maybe Jake's review will help get it out. Encouraged to buy a product with the reinsurance of a 7-day return. Returned the product the next day and received terrible customer service. It's too bad that Jake didn't read Jerry's review before believing that they had a 7-day policy. Jerry got denied returning something an hour later, let alone 7 days. But then again, why would they say they had a 7-day policy? They're just setting themselves up for failure. So what'd you guys think about this Appleton GameStop? Should I visit it again in the future? Let me know. Let's go to the next one. For our next GameStop, we're going to head to the East Coast to Hartford, Connecticut. This store has a 3.8 rating on 293 reviews. This GameStop is in a strip mall attached to a Walmart, sandwiched between a Cajun seafood joint and an AT&T store. That's a sentence I never thought I'd say. Alright, let's get to those reviews. The first review for this GameStop comes from Biba. I probably said that wrong. They robbed me for $531 and didn't want to give me my merchandise or money back, even when I came with bank statements stating the payment went through. Always use cash in this establishment. If the system is slow, they will still charge you and give you nothing, even after it approved. Hate scammers. Ooh, ouch. I don't really think GameStop meant to scam them. I just have a feeling that these employees were probably not trained for this type of situation. What a horrible experience. Let's move on from that and read what happened to Mike. I called, surprised someone picked up, asked a question and was told, I'm not allowed to take calls. Then what are you doing? More money to anyone but this GS. So let me get this straight. They pick up the phone just to say they can't? What in the HE double hockey sticks is going on at this GS? Let's see if we can find anything else out with the next review, and that review comes from Alexis. I called them to ask if they had an item in stock. They said the item was in stock. I drove 40 minutes to the store for them to tell me they got confused even though I clearly clarified what I wanted. And then he tries to sell me something else. I am so confused to how this can even happen. How? I really don't understand at all where the confusion could happen. For example, if you're looking for like a specific video game, it's video game title, system. If you have the right game on the right system, then you're good to go. If one of those two things don't match up, then don't tell the person you have it. Where's the confusion? And then to top it off, they try to sell them something else? Ugh. My head is still spinning after that last review. Let's see if I can find my bearings with Eric's review. Awful. Purchase a used PS3 game and it didn't work. Called the store and the manager admitted that they don't quality check or test used games. Offered an exchange, but given I don't live in the area, this wasn't an option. Store essentially took my money in exchange for a clearly scratched and defective disc. Highly recommend you stay away from this store. Alright, this review makes more sense to me, at least I'm not so confused, but what doesn't make sense to me is how does GameStop not test the discs? Quick Jeff lore drop. I've been selling used video games on the side for years on eBay, and I test all the games before I list them. If I can do it, why can't GameStop? So what do you guys think about this GameStop? Do you think Biba got scammed? Let me know your thoughts and let's go to the next one. For our next GameStop, we stay east of the Mississippi and head to the capital of Pennsylvania, Harrisburg. This GameStop has a 3.6 rating on 196 reviews. Looks like the Google Street View car caught a couple of gamers heading in, unless they're going to Sally's. I don't think so. Anyways, let's get to those 1-star reviews. The first review for this GameStop comes from Nathan. Got an ETB pre-order of Journey Together. Went to pick it up on release day, and they said they sold it. Keep in mind I already paid it off, and went in 3 days before to make sure they had it, and they said they did. And they ended up selling it before I can get off work to pick it up. Beyond pissed off. The manager Walter needs to fix the way he runs things here.
Say my name.
This is another situation at a GameStop that I have no idea how does this even happen. Nathan paid off the game in full, but the person at GameStop sold it to somebody else? Were they just hoping that Nathan wouldn't show up even though he paid in full? I don't get what's going on. Maybe it has something to do with this Walter character. I don't know. Let's see what happened to Kay. Staff is rough. Took my son in there for a certain item, planning to buy more than just that. They didn't have the time of day for me because they didn't have the one item. I asked if they could check other stores, and he said we don't do that here. Bought online elsewhere. Maybe I'm wrong because I haven't been to a GameStop in a long time, and my hometown GameStop actually closed down, but I felt like they would check the other city stores by default if they didn't have something. They wouldn't just say, no, we don't do that. Or maybe they didn't, or maybe the people that worked at the GameStop I went to were just nice. I don't know, but what I do know is the next review comes from T. I was just in this location not too long ago. I was not greeted at the door. Was not provide any kind of service for my needs, and I think it was Walter working.
Say my name.
Who I know is a store manager and should be held accountable for this type of treatment of the customers. I've had issues with this exact individual in the past treating me like I'm just a wallet instead of a customer. I have told him no.
No! No!
On several occasions about reservations and subscriptions, and he would not stop pushing it on me. I don't know how Walter still has a job here.
Say my name.
Considering how terrible of a store manager he truly is, especially towards customers. I would highly consider maybe moving on from this manager. After 20 plus minutes of waiting to check out, I should have at least been acknowledged. The infamous Walter fella from Nathan's review strikes again.
Say my name.
It also seems like T went in there chock full of beef towards Walter, but Walter also disappointed him again. Whose side are you on? Let's see if Connor ran into the infamous Walter. Worker seems flustered and isn't helpful. First time in 30 years of going to GameStop that I was told a case would be needed for a trade-in because he didn't have display cases. Seems like it was close to his unposted closing time and he didn't want to work. Edit. Went to a separate GameStop and the employee there was way more helpful, and several of the items that this employee said he could not take for not very good reasons were accepted. Whoa, we have a 30-year vet of GameStop in our midst. That's pretty cool. And I know for a fact GameStop takes loose games. I wonder if this was Walter again.
Say my name.
So let me know what you think about this GameStop. Would you avoid it because of Walter? I think I would. And with that, you made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far and you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe, leave a like, and check out this video on screen now. And I've been Jeff, and I can't wait to see you again. Goodbye.